It's been 2.5 years since I filmed the series on repairing a Mercedes 722.6 transmission. And and over that time, a lot of people have emailed me or private messaged me and said, "Hey Kent, how did it work out? Is it still working okay? Have you had any problems with the wagon?" Well, I'm standing right here beside the same E320 wagon that I acquired 2.5 years ago. And I tell you, the transmission is still working great. We've put about 20,000 miles on the car, and it still shifts beautifully. This is one of the nicest driving, nicest handling W210s I've had. And I just replaced the front shocks on this wagon. Now it really handles nice. So a lot of you are thinking, well, what about all the details to doing this, and how did you do it, and where do you get the parts? I get a lot of different questions like this. So what I've decided to do is I've put together a kit. It's going to include, the filter and the gasket for the pan, the electrical plug and the conductor plate, all as a kit. And then I will include free of charge a video. It'll be a step-by-step video where I'll just take you through the process, literally getting the car up on the lift, pulling the pan off, pulling that plug out, pulling the conductor plate down, going through it, looking it over, inspecting it, cleaning everything up, and then making sure you get it all back up into the transmission. And you can imagine just how happy I was when I got this all back together and it worked. And then of course, 2.5 years later, I'm really happy, considering what I had to pay for the car. The original owner had been told that it would be between $6,000 and $7,000 to repair this transmission. In some ways, I've got to defend the shops that might say a new transmission. I know the problem. I've had this happen to me. You think you can help somebody out by saving a little money, and you tell them, well, let's just replace the conductor plate. And then they do that, and you give them, $800, $1,000 or whatever it is, and then the transmission goes out in another 3 months. And you're back at the shop or at the dealer saying, hey, you were supposed to fix this. Now give me my money back. Well, so you have to understand that side of the equation also. If you're a shop or you're a dealer, you want to make sure that you fix the car right and the car goes out the door and the customer doesn't come back. Okay? Maybe you've been on one side or the other and you certainly know what I'm talking about. But if you do the work yourself and you're willing to take the risk, maybe 6, 7, 8 out of 10 times that conductor plate will fix the problem, and there's some other times that it will not. So don't think that, oh, I've got a problem with my 722.6 transmission, I'm just going to get Kent's video and put this new parts in and everything's going to be hunky-dory. Well, there's no guarantee, okay? But when you consider the cost of the parts and you consider the fact that you're going to do the labor yourself, I think it's worth a risk. It's certainly worth a risk when you consider what it's going to cost to buy a replacement transmission for one of these cars. Here's the culprit right here. It's called the conductor plate for the 722.6 5-speed automatic transmission. You might be thinking, well, if it's called a conductor plate, that means it's supposed to be conducting something, right? Yes, it's conducting electricity. You have an electronic transmission if you have one of these. And there's lots of contacts in here. There are 5 solenoids that go in here that control the various shifting of the transmission. And right here you have this electrical plug which gets all the feed for all the electrical inputs into the conductor plate. So if you're having a shifting problem, in all likelihood it could be something related to the electrical plug, poor contacts in the plug, some sort of a problem with a solenoid or a speed sensor, or some contact issue on this plate right here. And you may be asking, well, Kent, how do I know if I replace the conductor plate, will that fix my problem? I get this all the time. I get a lot of these emails. Well, my car won't shift, or my car won't go into reverse, or my car won't do this, or my transmission is doing this. If it is related to shifting, and you're getting a check engine light with an error code that's related to the transmission, then I would say 70–80% of the time it's going to be the conductor plate. There's no guarantee that the conductor plate is going to fix the problem you might have with your own 722.6 transmission, because you could have other issues. You could have a problem with the transmission, a mechanical problem, that caused a failure of the conductor plate, which sent the error code to the computer to say the conductor plate is not making contact, okay, or there's some issue with the speed sensor, something like that. But when you consider the cost of doing this, as opposed to a replacement transmission. Now, some of you that are watching this video right now may have just come from a mechanic or dealer who has told you it's going to be $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 to replace the transmission in your older Mercedes-Benz, and you're going, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to spend that kind of money. If you're willing to do this job yourself, it's going to be less than $400 total. And if you want to buy some cheap aftermarket part, it might be less than $250. I'll warn you about that a little bit later, okay? So this is not expensive if you're going to do it yourself, but if you're going to take it to a shop may be very reluctant to replace this for you because they know that it could not solve the problem and you might not be a very happy customer because you've thought, oh, I'm going to spend $1,000, have the shop replace this. I'm just using that figure. I'm not saying that's what all shops will charge. But then you come back, you drive the car for a little while, and then you start having shifting problems again. You're not going to be very happy, and as I said earlier, the shop's not going to be very happy, and everybody's going to be upset. So a lot of the shops won't do this. They'll just go say, I'll give you a rebuilt transmission, or I'll give you a new transmission, because they know that's going to fix the problem for sure. But if you're willing to get under the car, drop the pan, remove the valve body, and replace this part right here. Now this part sits up on top of the valve body. And I have a complete video manual in 3 parts that's available on my website that comes when you buy this kit from us. And it's not a beginner DIY job, but it's not an advanced one either. If you follow the instructions carefully, you take a lot of care to not introduce any dirt. You replace the parts with the correct parts. And you just take your time, and you may be surprised. You may just save yourself $3,000 or $4,000. And you're going to be really happy. You can't believe some of the emails I've received from people who have done this and said, Kent, wow, it worked. But I want to make it very clear in this video, and I'm going to make it very clear on my website. If you go to my website, you'll get more information about this kit and the videos that I give with the kit. There's no guarantee that this is going to fix your problem. I do know that if the transmission is in limpo mode, in other words, it's locked up and won't go out of second gear. You go down the road, it shifts kind of abruptly from first to second, and then it won't shift at all again. I would say it's a very high likelihood that replacement of the conductor plate and the electrical plug is going to fix it. Now, if you have other shifting issues, that's when it gets a little more gray. Whether or not the conductor plate is going to fix this, like this, it won't go into reverse. Is that going to fix it? I can't say. You might have some electrical thing going on here that's preventing the transmission from going into reverse. So you're going to have to make the decision, take the risk, because there is a risk involved. And we try to make it so you can do it yourself. And if it doesn't fix it, well, you're not going to be out $1,000 or $1,500 or whatever. Okay. Now, I'm sure the other question we get all the time is, well, does my car have one of these transmissions? Okay, right off, this is the 722.6 5-speed automatic. If you don't have a 5-speed automatic with an electric shifter, you don't have this transmission. The transmission was produced in the US cars from 1996 to 2006, but not all cars from 96 to 2006 have this transmission. I do know that almost all Mercedes that were made, almost all, from about 1998 to 2002 had the 722.6. But you get up into the 2003 to 2006, there are models that didn't have it. You get into the 96 and 97 cars. Some of those cars didn't have the 7226. But you talk about chassis, you're talking about the R129, the W140, the W210, the W208, the W209, the M-Class, the CLKs. All of these had or may have, I'm going to put may have, the 7226 transmission. So I'm going to recommend, if you're in one of those years, you can Google it, put in your year and model and put in type of transmission. If you want to know for sure, I'm going to recommend you call your local dealer and give them your VIN number. They'll tell you exactly what transmission is in your car. So you want to make sure that you have the right transmission, and then you want to make sure that you have symptoms, okay, that would warrant replacement of these parts I'm showing you right here on the bench. The kit I've put together has a few items in it that other kits won't have that you might see available on the internet. But one of the things I want to address right from the start is the quality of the conductor plate. I'm going to say, don't be tempted to buy some of these cheap replacements. There's a lot of these out there on the market. I think the demand is high enough that you see quite a few knockoffs coming out of China, and you want to make sure you get the OE genuine part. Be careful, you may get it from a seller who says it's OE and it's not. You have to make sure it has the Mercedes-Benz star stamped in it. Make sure it's a very clean looking star, something that's not been stamped by some hand stamp. It should be very high quality, professional looking stamping. Mercedes-Benz here, Mercedes-Benz here, with the star right there. So we only sell genuine OE Mercedes-Benz conductor plates, and also the electrical plug. There's a lot of cheap ones out there, but it's not worth it because the critical component here is the fit and the quality of the O-rings on this particular plug. These are known to leak fluid, and when they leak transmission fluid will get down in the plug and you'll lose contact. So in some situations with malfunctioning 722.6 transmissions, it may not be the conductor plate, it might just be the plug. And the plug you'll find will be full of transmission fluid. You'll have to clean it all up. And we do sell, along with this kit, a quality aftermarket, this is not genuine OE, but a quality aftermarket filter and gasket, pan gasket for the transmission. You want to change these, you know, every time you have that transmission opened up. And then these are the items that I include that are kind of special. This is a special DuPont lint-free clean cloth. And you're going to find you're going to be doing a lot of wiping, and you need to make sure all the surfaces and all the parts stay clean. You pull that valve body out of the transmission, it's going to be dripping all over the place. So I include these special wiping towels. You don't want to introduce any lint onto the conductor plate or into the valve body by using regular shop towels. You got to be really careful here. So I include these in the kit, and I also include a couple pairs of my heavy-duty nitrile gloves, because let me tell you, if you don't wear gloves when you do this job, you're going to be sorry. And you need heavy-duty ones. If you have those cheap but thin ones, they just tear. They tear when you're working around transmission or on the bench on the valve body. So I include those also, and then you'll get the full 3-part video series at no extra charge with the purchase of this kit as you see here. So don't be afraid to give this a shot. You may be surprised, and you may be one of those people out there that says, wow, I just saved $4,000. And then of course you can always go right to my website. I'll put links below in the description of this video that'll take you right to more information about this kit at Mercedessource.com.